Om Bhadrang Karnevi Srinvamo Devaha Bhadrang Pashyemakshavirjajatraha Sthirairangai Stustuvagunshastanovihi Vasema Devahitam Jadayuhu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May we hear with our ears what is auspicious. May we see with our eyes what is beneficial. May we sing praises to the Lord and enjoy with strong limbs and body the life assigned to us by Him. Om, peace, peace, peace. The topic of today's talk is manage anger and enjoy peace. Mahabharata is a great epic of our religion, and in Mahabharata there are many stories which are very illuminating. There is one story which happened after the Pandavas went to the forest. That means, as you remember, that there was a dice game, and in that dice game after the dice game they had to go to the forest for 12 years, and also there was a stipulation that they will have to spend 1 year incognito. That means they will have to spend 1 year in such a way that nobody will be able to recognize them. So at this juncture, Pandavas were having a sort of conference, that means what to do, what not to do, and in that way they are talking. And inside the forest they are talking in that way, and suddenly Yudhishthira felt thirsty, the eldest brother. And he asked his youngest brother, Sahadeva, to fetch some water for him. Sahadeva went and searched for water, and he found a nice lake of water. That means it is full of beautiful, it is filled with beautiful transparent crystal water, and he was very happy, and he just went to fetch water, take water in a pitcher. And as soon as he went to that to get the water, there was a voice. He saw just one crane was there. There was no fish or any other animal aside. As if the crane was saying that, well, stop taking water. You first answer my questions and then take water and drink it. Otherwise, you will die. So he could not figure out, Sadhu could not figure out how actually this type of voice can be heard from anywhere. So he ignored that and fetched the water. First he drank, and after drinking actually he died and fell down. And after some time, Yudhishthira saw that his brother is not returning, so he sent his next brother, that means next youngest brother, Nakula. Nakula also found that water, but he saw the dead body of Sahadeva lying there. So he could not figure out what to do, but since his eldest brother has asked for water, so he went and just went to dip his vessel to collect water. Again some voice came and said, well, please wait, please answer my questions first, then you get your water and drink it, and if you do not obey me, you will die. So Nakula also saw around and did not find anybody, and he just dipped his pitcher and first drank water, and he also died. And this happened. Yudhishthira, finding his brothers not returning again, he sent Arjuna and Bhima, and both of them died in the same place. Then Yudhishthira thought that there must be some mystery, so he came to that lake itself. And in that lake again that voice came, and the voice said that, well, you see your brothers are dead, and if you do not listen me, it will happen to you. First you answer my questions, and then actually you fetch your water, drink it. Otherwise you will die like your brother. Yudhishthira was a patient person, so naturally he agreed. He said that, yes, you please ask me what questions you have. And by that time, because of this patience or whatever, that crane suddenly turned into a yaksha. That means a sort of creature which does not have any similarity in, that type of creature is not never seen. It is neither human being, not an animal, and whatever it may be in that way, that being actually appeared. And he said that, well, I am very happy that you have agreed to answer my question. Now you please answer my questions. And he actually put in a series about 18 questions, as it is said. That is a minimum. And in some places it is said that he had asked about 33 questions. Whatever it may be, one of the questions is concerned with us, and that question is, Yaksha asked, abandoning what does a man not suffer? So Yudhishthira immediately answered, yes, what is called abandoning anger, man is not subject to suffering. So that answer was given by Yudhishthira, and all the answers that Yudhishthira gave in reply to the Yaksha's questions were very apt, and they form a sort of metaphysical or philosophical truths that actually we handle in our lives. So Yaksha was very happy after the series of questions were answered, and Yudhishthira got back his brothers. That means they became alive, and also they had water. So the question is that it is very true that abandoning anger, actually we do not suffer, and not only that, we enjoy peace. There was a sage, and his stories appear in our Puranas. His name is Durvasa. He is considered to be an embodiment, or what is called avatar of anger. There are many stories associated with his life. So sometimes we read the stories of his life, stories associated with him, and that actually gives us an impression how actually anger can manifest, and in what way actually it can be very bad for us, bad for everybody. And also sometimes there are aspects where anger has helped also. So in the stories that are associated with Durvasa, you will find examples of that. Durvasa was a sage, and he was born of sage Uttariya Anusaya. And the story is like this. Once Mahadeva and Lord Shiva, Mahadeva and Lord Vishnu or Brahma, I think Lord Vishnu had quarrel, and the quarrel was going on, and Shiva was very much enraged. And when he was enraged, he understood that this anger is not really very good for me. So he wanted to get rid of that anger. To get rid of that anger, actually, he actually passed that anger as in the womb of Anusaya. And out of that, actually, Durvasa was born. In that way, Uttari and Anusaya is considered to be the parents of Durvasa. And from his very early age, he was very full of anger for that reason. And also it is considered Durvasa is an incarnation of Lord Shiva in the form of anger. So there are stories associated with that. You see, in one of the stories, once Durvasa was walking through a forest, and from the other side, Lord Indra was coming. And Durvasa, before meeting Indra, had, as he was walking, he met one Apsara. Her name was Vidyadhari. And she paid respect and also offered a beautiful fragrant garland to Durvasa to please him. Durvasa accepted that, and he continued his walk. And ultimately from the other side of the road, Lord Indra, the king of the gods, were approaching on his elephant, Oiravatam. And Durvasa, Lord Indra is coming, so he offered that garland to Lord Indra. And Indra thought that this garland will be very apt for his elephant, so he gave that garland to Oiravatam. But Oiravatam is an animal, so he accepted it, but ultimately he put it on the ground and trampled it with one of his feet. And Durvasa saw that, and he became very angry. And he said that, well, you have dishonored me, you have dishonored me, and I tell you that you will lose all your power. Not only you will lose your power, all the gods will lose their power and will be won by the demons. So in that way he cursed him. And after getting the curse, slowly it so happened that all the gods became powerless, and Indra also became powerless. So he ran to Brahma, and asked for a solution. And Brahma said, yes, there is a solution. That means if you can drink amrita, that means celestial nectar, you will get back your strength. So we had to find that nectar. So he said that you have to churn the ocean, and out of the ocean the nectar will come, and then actually you can drink that. So they churned, and by that time they have become very powerless, and they have made a deal with the Asuras. That means Asuras, when they came to know, they also wanted to drink that nectar. So they both agreed that when the nectar will come, both of them will share. And in that way the churning of the ocean was started. And out of the churning of the ocean, the nectar actually came out. And it came out in the form, and it was held by Lord Vishnu in the form of an Apsara. That means in that way he accepted. But while carrying it, actually the drops of that nectar fell on 4 places of India. And even the places where the Kumbh Mela is held, that means Prayag, Ujjaini, and Nasik and Haridwar, in all those places actually drops of that fell, and in that way those places became immortal, and that because the immortal nectar fell there. Of course, the rest of the story is, as you know, that Devas actually got the most of the nectar, and in that way they got back their strength. But the point is that out of the anger actually this happened. Let me see that Durvasa got angry. That is why you are still enjoying this Prayag. That means you can go, you see that millions of people go just to talk about it, the faith that they will become immortal, or just to get rid of the sin. Then there is a story of Durvasa with one king. His name is Ambarisha. Ambarisha actually with his wife was celebrating Ekadashi. That means that quarterly, what is called every fortnight, that is celebrated. So he actually started that. It is said that he actually started that for the benefit of spirituality or whatever. So in that way they are celebrating, and they are observing that Ekadashi for about 3 years. And after the 3 years, actually they are about to break their fasting, and at that time Durvasa appeared. And Durvasa, you know, he had a large following, and he came with all the disciples and asked for food, and then actually Ambarisha said, yes, you have come, it is a very auspicious time, I am just going to break my fast. And then Durvasa said that, yes, you wait, we shall take a bath in the river and we shall come back. And by that time actually the auspicious moment of breaking the fast was going on. That means it has to be done at the juncture of the Ekadashi and Dadashi. So, and also it is inauspicious to take food without offering food to the honored guests. So Ambarisha was in a great fix. So he consulted his what is called Pandits, and they said that, well, you have to wait, and what can be done? But ultimately one Brahmin said that, well, yes, you need not wait to eat, but you just break your fast at the auspicious moment of the juncture of the Ekadashi, just taking a leaf of Tulasi. So in that way, both sides will be all right. That means your breaking of the fast will be done, and at the same time also you will be able to feed the honored guest before breaking the fast. And he actually did that, and then Durvasa came and was very angry, and he actually cursed him, and ultimately what is called Ambarisha was very much cursed, and then they of course later on we see that he reconciled, and he was very happy after getting the food, and then went away. Then there is a celebrated story of Durvasa with Shakuntala that has been what is immortalized by Kalidas in the story or in his drama Abhikana Shakuntala. In Shakuntala's story, we see that Shakuntala met King Duswanta in a forest, and in the forest actually we see that the king met Shakuntala and fell in love, and then Shakuntala said that, well, how you will remember me when I go to your palace. Then the king gave one ring, and in that it was given. And Shakuntala was very much, afterwards we see that Shakuntala was thinking of Dushyanta and his life in the palace and all those things, and at that time Durvasa appeared. And she actually did not notice the presence of Durvasa, and Durvasa actually cursed her. That means the person whom you are thinking, when you meet him, he will not be able to recognize you. In that way he cursed her, and then went away. But then others said that it is a very serious curse that you have women, she has to go to the king, and king will have to receive him. Then Durvasa modified his curse that yes, if there is any sign or symbol that has been given that person whom he is thinking, then actually he will be able to recognize him. And ultimately we see that when the Shakuntala went, the king did not recognize her, and ultimately when the ring that was given to Dushyanta, he actually recognized. And in that way there are several stories that are associated. There are a few other stories that are also very interesting, but let me come to the subject now. The subject is that in Krodha, as we see, is a problem which everyone, that means anger is very common. Why anger is there? That means if it is not good for us, why anger is given to us? It is like this, it is said that it is a sort of what is called a urgent protection for us. That means when it is necessary, if we apply it, actually you will be saved in that way for the time being. But if it is a continuous one, that if it is a part of our personality, then actually it is a problem. So in Bhagavad Gita we see that Lord Krishna has mentioned about what is called this anger in several places, and he says that how actually anger is created. So he has said, Dhayata Vishan Pumsa Sangaste Shupajayate Sangat Sanjayata Kama Kamat Krodho Vijayate Krodhat Bhavati Sammoha Sammohat Smriti Vigrama Smriti Bhrangshat Buddhinasha Buddhinasha Pranashwari. That means when a man dwells on objects, he feels an attachment for them. That means these are the stages of building up of anger that point by point Lord Krishna has said in that verse. He is saying when a man dwells on objects, he feels an attachment for them. Attachments give rise to desire, and desire breeds anger. From anger comes delusion, from delusion the failure of memory, and from failure of memory the ruin of discrimination, and from ruin of discrimination the man perishes. This is the stage of what is called birth, growth, and you can say the ultimate demise of anger, which actually very ruinous to us. In that way Lord Krishna has said in the Bhagavad Gita. In other places also he has said that Kamo Esho, Krodha Esho, Raja Guna Samudbhava, Mahasana Mahapapma Vidyanamiya Vairanam. That means what is the nature of this Krodha? That means this anger. So he is saying under what he says that it is desire, it is anger which springs from Rajas. We have three qualities within ourselves, that means Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, which actually from the very beginning, from the birth of the creation, actually according to Indian philosophy and especially Sankhya philosophy, we are combination of three. Everything on this universe is a combination of three gunas, that means three qualities, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. And Sattva is the good quality, that means by which actually the balance or mental balance and everything which is can be said to be calm, quiet, peaceful, that can be achieved through that quality, cultivation of that quality. And Raja is actually the activity part. And for the creation it is important, and not only that, for the preservation also it is important, and for destruction also it works, and it goes down to Tamas, which is really ultimately animalistic quality, or what is called, which does not have any progress and death and all those things. So in that way, Lord Krishna is pointing out this Krodha is a quality of Rajas. That is in that way he has remarked. Then in another place he has said, Ahankarang balam darpam kamam krodhan cha sansita mamatma paradeheshu pradishanta advasyaka. That means it is possessed of egotism, power and pride, and also of lust and anger. These people, envious by nature, hate me in the bodies of others and their own. That means those who possess this krodha, anger, ultimately forgets God. And in that way they actually hate him, hate God, and ultimately they, they get their consequences. So in that way it is very negative, that is the point. Then in another place he is very clearly said, Trividam narakaswadaram nasanatmana kama krodhas tatha lobhas tasmad etat trayantaje. So he has clearly said that these are the three are the gateways of this hell, leading to the ruin of the self: lust, anger and greed. Therefore let man renounce these three. So in that way he has pointedly said that krodha, that means anger ultimately leads to the what is called destruction of a person. Then finally he has said, Ahankaram balam darpam kamam krodham parigraham vimuccha nirmamas shanta brahma bhuya kalpate. So he has pointed out that these are the what is called bad qualities. If one renounces, then actually he will be able to reach the highest. That means brahma bhuya, that means he will become one with the ultimate reality. Forsaking conceit and power, pride and lust, anger and possessions, tranquil in heart, and free from ego, he becomes worthy of being one with Brahma. So this is the great quality, or this is the great benefit that Lord Krishna has said that one can have by renouncing what is called anger. So in this way we see that anger, we know it does not require to be say that we have anger. We all have anger, but we need to know anger. We have to live with anger, but we need to know how to handle it. That is the point. So there are ways of handling that has been enumerated or advised by our teachers. That means not only in our teachers, that means in Hinduism, but in other religion also this problem has been tackled. Especially Lord Buddha has given extensive instruction about how to control anger. And of course in our literature also we find that there are ways by which it can be controlled. And these are of course from the point of view of a religious aspect, spirituality, for the spiritual growth. But we have to have anger control in our day-to-day life also, in secular life also. That also have been taken care of by some what we call psychologists in nowadays, or therapists, or those who are really concerned with the human mind. So in that way also that has been handled. That means other than the spiritual benefit of control of the anger, there is definitely secular benefit of control of the anger, and that has been that we find, and that has been also advised by different specialists. So let us see from the point of view of spiritual angle how actually anger can be controlled. So there was one sage, his name was Vidyaranya. He was actually a great Pandit also, that means his time was probably Vidyaranya Muni, maybe he was after Shankaracharya, because he has commented upon Shankaracharya, maybe 12th century, 13th century, like that. So he was previously a king, but he renounced, handing over his kingdom to his brother and became a sage. And ultimately he had spiritual realization and wrote a few very important spiritual books. So one of the book is Jivan Mukti Viveka. It is a book which actually gives an idea of what is meant by Jivan Mukti. Jivan Mukti, you know, is a coveted situation of any spiritual aspirant. That means he will be mukta, that means liberated. His soul will be liberated, but at the same time he will be living on earth. The situation is like this: when the liberation comes, it is mostly post-mortem. Post-mortem means probably if somebody has done a lot of spiritual practice, or he has a good luck, or acquired a lot of merits, punya, probably at the time of death he will get liberation. But he will not be able to enjoy that liberation. That is the point. That means his body will die, and his soul will be liberated. That means he will not be born again. That is called mukti. But Jivan Mukti is another status. That means a person, by doing spiritual practices, can attain to that. That means get liberation. At the same time, his body will remain for some time to work out the past actions. That is called Jivan Mukti. And it is a great debatable condition that we see in scriptures. And he wrote a book on that subject, this Vidyarana Muni. So he says, there are two types of anger: your anger on somebody and somebody's anger on you. When you tend to get angry with others, you should address your mind and say, quote, "My mind, if you must be angry with those who cause you harm, why don't you then get angry with anger itself?" So if you have got that opportunity when actually anger is coming from you for others, then just halt a little bit, and when you recognize that you are getting angry, just tell that, well, why you are really projecting your anger to somebody else. Instead, why don't you project your anger to your anger, that means to yourself, in that way. For it does you greatest harm, because anger does greatest harm. It prevents you from attaining the cherished values of life, righteousness, wealth, pleasure and salvation. While angry, you live through hell, even before death. So you have no enemy worse than anger. So if to live with anger is really hell, that means you are always getting angry with somebody, something, and you cannot control it. It is just living in a hell, he is saying. Now, the meaning of this truth should be repeatedly reflected upon. You should get angry with your anger itself. This will be productive of peace and enlightenment. That if we think in that way, that means, well, I am getting angry with that person in my mind. Instead of, if we get angry with our anger, actually, we shall ultimately find peace and blessedness in our mind. In that way, anger will be controlled. That is one way that he has said. Then another case is this: in the case of others getting angry with you, you should never think, I have done no wrong. Then why do these people get angry with me who am so innocent? So sometimes people get angry with somebody, and if it is like that, if you are getting anger from other person, so what will be the situation he is saying? You are really not innocent. For is it not a great offense that you have so far failed to get rid of the bondage of life and death and attain illumination? That means some sort of what is called fault is always there. That is why we are not really liberated. That means there is no reason that we should be born, because to get rid of some faults or some defects or ignorance, whatever you call, you are here on earth. So you cannot really claim that you are really faultless. That is the point. The attainment of illumination alone makes for true innocence. That means if you are a really illumined soul, then actually you can claim that you are really innocent. So until you have attained illumination, how could you consider yourself to be innocent? So naturally, when you think that you are not justified when somebody is getting angry, then you can think that yes, some fault is there within me. That is why I am getting this treatment. Another way of avoiding being provoked by others' anger towards us is to regard those who get angry with us as our benefactors and be thankful to them for their services, by getting angry with us, they reveal to us our faults and thus strengthen our non-attachment. So this is what is called a little philosophical way. See, that means if somebody has got angry with us, they are doing good to us because they are pointing out to us fault and it needs to be addressed by us. In that way they are benefactor. So that is another attitude we can have to the person who is getting angry with us. For rendering this service to us, they even sacrifice their own peace of mind. So it is in that way also we can feel that, well, they are doing so good that that means they are sacrificing their peace of mind. And for this we should be all the more grateful to them. So it is a change of the attitude. You can see that, well, they are showing defect of us, and they are showing so much that they are sacrificing their peace of mind. There is a philosopher, a king, his name was Marcus Aurelius. He said, when you are angry, above measure, think within yourself, how momentary is man's life. Let us think how much more grievous are the consequences of our anger than the acts which arouse it. Let this truth be present in you in the excitement of anger. That to be moved by passion is not manly, but that mildness and gentleness, as they are more human, so also are they more manly. So in that way you rationalize. That means a sort of rational approach is necessary for anger. Now there are two advices given by two well-known philosophers. One is one was a Greek philosopher, another was a Roman philosopher. So a Roman philosopher, Epictetus, says, whenever you are angry, be assured that it is not only a present evil, but you have also augmented a habit and added fuel to fire. So in that way, actually, you have to look at the anger. If you desire not to be of an angry temper, then do not feed that habit. So you have to decide that if you get angry, actually you are feeding the anger. That means you are putting butter on the fire. In that way, it will increase. That means there is no way that by repeatedly getting angry, you can get rid of that anger. Give it nothing to help its increase. Be quiet at first and reckon the days in which you have not been angry. So practical aspect of be quiet. That means don't react. And then just to divert your mind, you think so many days, so many circumstances, you are not angry. So in that way, that will pacify that anger. That means you'll be able to control the coming of anger in that way. So he has quoted, I used to be angry every day. Now every other day, then every third day or fourth day. In that way, you count your days when you are not were not angry. And if you miss being angry for as long as 30 days, offer a grateful thanksgiving to God. Then if you are not really angry for 30 days, then give thanks. These are practical advices given by in those days. Then there was another philosopher, his name was Seneca. He says, the greatest remedy for anger is delay. That is the very great. Even actually it works today also. Delay. That means when you are angry, just stop. That means don't do anything. Just sit down. Or I shall come to the practical advices that are given by what is called personal trainers. Nowadays they call personal trainers. That means somebody has problem, they go to somebody to advise and say that what I need to do to get rid of these things. So in that also you see, delay is the greatest or simplest way of getting rid of anger. So he says, when angry, count 10 before you speak. If very angry, count 100. This is the substance of their practical precepts. The idea is to put a brake on anger. So these are the advices that has come down that we see from the different sources who are really known philosopher and spiritual personalities. Now coming to Buddha. Buddha, as you know, he was a very practical person. Practical person means he had the opportunity of being a prince. So he knew all the politics and all those things. And also in his lifetime he had built up a huge religious organization. Organization means it is said that when there is two, the politics starts. So organization means that thousands of people are there. So naturally there is always conflict, friction and all those things. So he had to solve those problems always. So he has given, that means this type of situation when he came, so he used to give. His life was like this, that every day actually, every early morning he used to get up. First he used to go and bake for some food, and then he used to eat, and then actually he used to give what is called address people. Address people means there are categories of people that used to come, newcomers were there. To him actually he explained his religion, and in that way when they agreed, they actually were what is called converted into Buddha. They accepted Buddha's religion. Then actually there are times when he addresses novices, then there is a time when he addressed what is called his monks, and then there was advices, there was senior monks. In that way his day was divided in addressing people, and in that way he spent his time. And at night actually it is said that he used to take rest in this way. For some time he used to be alone. For 2 hours or something like that he used to walk alone, and in that way he used to think that how actually I should do good to the world. Because when Buddha renounced the world, it was not for his own salvation. We do spiritual practices, or we see the Rishi Munis do the spiritual practices, or those who take Vanaprastha, they go to the forest or places of pilgrimage for their own salvation. But Buddha never asked for his own salvation. He left the world, that means he left his kingdom and all those things for the salvation, to get rid of the sorrow of the world. That was the purpose. So every day actually he had allotted some time to think how he could get people out of sorrow. Then for some time actually he thought about his, what is called, how the organization he used to think. And in that way he spent the most of the hour of his night. And he used to sleep only 4 hours. That means from 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock or something like that, he used to sleep. So his day was full of activities. So once when the Buddha happened to visit Kosambi, he learned about disputes prevailing among the bhikkhus. Bhikkhus meant that means monks of that locality. He called the disputing bhikkhus to his presence and addressed them thus: "Bhikkhus, you are disputing and hurling taunts at one another because you do not seem to know the states of consciousness which lead to harmony and peace. Bhikkhus, there are 6 states of consciousness which conduce to unity and harmony." Buddha then pointed out one by one: acts of goodwill towards fellow beings, words of goodwill sincerely spoken, thoughts of goodwill sincerely harbored, sharing with others all that you have down to the last crumb of bread. That means they are bhikkhus, so naturally they did not have much belongings. So whatever you have, whenever necessity, share with others. Sharing with others your higher life of flawless virtue, and removing all evil around you with the noble, sacred creed of love. So these are the 6 states of consciousness he advised them to practice. He is saying these are the 6 states of consciousness which, being in themselves friendly and respectful, lead to accord, amity and love. Then he is saying, listen bhikkhus, these 6 states of consciousness lead to supreme knowledge. Each of these leads successively a step further, and where there is something further to be done, let there be no falling back in your state. It is certain that those who will sincerely practice the simple but priceless principle of the above sutta. Sutta means is discourse. In Buddhism, actually, they had very good learned persons. So all the talks that Buddha had given are recorded. That means they are accumulated in Tripitaka. Tripitaka means the 3 baskets, as they are called. They are collection of Lord Buddha's all discourses. You can imagine that he became Buddha at the age of 35 and he lived up to the age of 40. So 45 years actually he has always preached, and he always moved with his retinue. Retinue means that means he never went to, he did not go to the cities or villages as such. He used to live outside, he used to camp, you can say, in the campground. But he used to go and bake food from the door to door, and his bhikkhus also used to do that, and they used to come back. So he did not go into the worldly places. And in that way he traveled always from length and breadth, rather the length of the northern India. Suppose from Bihar to UP or Delhi or some, that place was the northern part of the Ganges plain, you can say. He used to travel, and in that way he spent the 45 years. Of course he used to stop for 4 months every year during the rainy season to a place. That means that was that at that time he did not travel. So he's saying this sutta, actually my point is that he used to give sermons every day, and they have been collected, that means they are available. I once asked one Buddhist monk, he's an American monk, but he was a follower of a great Chinese, what is called, a religious teacher who passed away a few years ago, attaining at the age of maybe 100 plus years in California. So he was a follower of that, and I asked, he was a scholar, that means he teaches even, I think, at Berkeley University, in their what is called religious institute. So he lives there. I asked him that, well, do you know if all the lectures that are given by Lord Buddha has been translated into English? He said, no, Swamiji, it has not been done. They are still being worked out. That means first they have to be located, and they are available in Tibet only. That means they have preserved them carefully. And from the Tibetan language they needed to be translated. So you can understand very few can do that. So in that way, many of his talks are still has remained untranslated. So he's saying it is certain that those who will sincerely practice the simple but priceless principle of the above sutta in their daily life will be able to overcome anger very soon. The whole world needs these precepts for saving itself from destruction at the individual and social levels. Then there is the great Metta Sutta, and you know, sometimes we, that means in our order also, we recite that, thinking that these what is called, these verses are really original Sanskrit, has come from our scriptures. It is not like that. This was given by Lord Buddha, and Lord Buddha's teachings were translated into Sanskrit also. In that way it has come down, and Metta Sutta is one of them. There is another teaching of the Buddha which will guide us in our efforts to overcome anger, and also help us develop a disposition in which even the impulse to be angry will be absent. Controlling or overcoming anger which has arisen is certainly good, but it is better to have a mind from which only love and bliss flows to all creatures, to every direction. This teaching is known as the Metta Sutta, which was reportedly taught to Bimbisara, the Magadha king. Bimbisara was a contemporary of Lord Buddha, and it is said that Bimbisara at that time was ruler. They are good friends also. When Buddha first renounced, that means he came out of his palace and went into the horseback, and then sent his what is called his horse back to his parents, and took the dress of the mendicant. So while walking, actually he first came to the kingdom of Magadha. He was walking on the street, and it is said that Bimbisara saw from the palace window there is a monk, and by observing him he thought that he looks like a known person. So he came down, and when he came down, he found that it was Buddha, that means Siddhartha at that time. So he asked him, well, what has happened to you? Why you are in this dress? So Siddhartha explained that, well, I have seen my life, and I have renounced everything in search of what is called solution of the sorrow, that how to get rid of sorrows of life. So Bimbisara said, you are a mad person. You come, I shall renounce, I shall give my kingdom to you. You rule here. Give up what you are thinking. Then actually Siddhartha said, no, it is quite, I'm quite certain that I am quite, I am not mad. I know what I am going to do, and I am not accepting your offer. I thank you for that. In that way he said. Then Bimbisara said that if you really find out the end of sorrow, that means if you can find out any way where the worldly sorrows can be ended, you please come, teach me, and I shall learn from you. So in that way, Bimbisara, he used to visit Magadha, and at that time, king was alive. So this teaching is known as the Metta Sutta, which was reportedly taught to Bimbisara, Magadha king. Buddha taught that all people seeking the well-being of themselves and others should cultivate this disposition of universal love. So this is the quote from his talk. He says that they should cultivate this type of thought. May all beings be happy and secure. May they be happy-minded. Whatever living beings there are, either feeble or strong, either long or great, middle-sized, short, small or large, either seen or unseen, which live far or near, either born or seeking birth, may all creatures be happy-minded. So it is not exactly the anger situation, but to prevent anger to arise in the mind, he is giving this advice. So if everybody says this thing, that means repeats this sutta, that means this quotes of Lord Buddha, actually, that will prevent anger to arise in the mind. Let no one deceive another. Let him not despise another in any place. Let him not out of anger or resentment wish harm to another. As a mother at the risk of her life watches over her own child, so also let everyone cultivate a boundless friendly mind towards all. So this is a sort of prayer you can say, or chant you can say. This is for the prevention, that means before, that means we think of, that means we are angry, we will become angry, and we are angry. So what is the solution? The solution is this, that means just to prevent, that means take steps in advance so that anger does not come into the mind. And this is the way that it can be done. And then continuing he said, and let him cultivate goodwill towards all in the world and a boundless friendly mind, above and below and across, unobstructed, without hatred, without enmity. Standing, walking or sitting or lying down, as long as he is awake, let him devote himself to this mind. This way of living, they say, is the best in this world. So this is the advice that Lord Krishna, that in advance, that means we have to cultivate this habit of repeating this prayer. Then actually he is saying that you will be able to control your anger when the situations come. That means you will not be a victim of anger. So this is the great advice that Lord Buddha had given, and in that way, even today we see that we utter, that means we, in our peace chant, it has become a part of our peace chant. Actually, I have this chant with me today also. Now let us see some other practical advices that has been given by different, which has been given in different times by different people. One is that one Italian priest has written one book, Unseen Warfare. Make it a rule every morning while you still sit at home to review in your mind all the occasions you may meet with in the course of the day, both favorable and unfavorable, and visualize the passions they may provoke. This is another way of visualizing, or you can say that means getting ready how to handle the anger situation. That's every day before leaving the house, think that what situations will, that means there are unknown situations also, but definitely we go out with some objective, and we have our routines and we have our work. In that way we visualize that what will happen throughout the day. Then prepare in yourself beforehand how to stifle them at the very inception without allowing them to develop. If you do this, you will never be taken unawares by any movement of passions. It is not only anger, other passions also can be controlled in this way, he is saying. But will always be ready to resist them without being troubled with anger or enticed by lust. So in that way actually you can visualize the situation in advance, and be ready for that. So when practically you go out and meet that situation, you will be able to control immediately. This review of what may happen should be practiced, especially when you have to go out and visit places where you are bound to meet people who can either attract or irritate you. Being prepared, you will easily avoid the one and the other. If a wave of passion arises, it will roll over your head and will break against you as against a rock, instead of carrying you with it like a flimsy boat. So this is a great advice that he has given. If you can visualize the situation, but you know that we have to face this situation, so at the moment when you face this situation, actually the anger and other passions that were supposed to bother you, actually they will not be able to affect you. They will just go over your head, is saying. So in this way, actually these are the advices, the practical advices that has been given. So Maharshi, Raman Maharshi has also given, because you know, it's a very common thing that people come to spiritual persons or great knowledgeable persons with this problem in their lives. So Raman Maharshi also had to face this. So in one place he has said, the mind now sees itself diversified as the universe. So his way of handling this, it is from the point of view of his own realization. That means his basic thought is that what we are actually is in the realm of what is called unreality. So what is real actually, that is within ourselves. The mind now sees itself diversified as the universe. If the diversity is not manifest, it remains in its own essence. That is the heart. Entering the heart means remaining without distraction. Heart is the place, Ramakrishna also has said, the heart is the place of the seat of our consciousness. We think that consciousness is in the brain according to the doctors, but actually consciousness, first step of consciousness actually in the heart according to the scriptures. The mind is only the transient phase. To remain as oneself is to enter the heart, H in capital. So if you can immediately think what is in the heart, that means I am there, and in that way actually it will not affect you. So he is continuing, he is saying, because a man identifies himself with the body, he sees the world separate from him. The wrong identification arises because he has lost his moorings and has swerved from his original state. He is now advised to give up all these false ideas, to retreat to his source and remain as the self. In that state, there are no differences, no questions will arise. So at that moment, it is a matter of practice, and those who are adept in meditation, for them probably it will be very practical. That means the moment comes, anger comes actually, you just bring back the mind to the soul. That means inside your heart, your chosen ideal is there, or if you think that your consciousness, you just bring back the mind there. So it will be at peace. So in that way, we see that advices have been given by different sources. Now, there is a very beautiful story. Swami Vivekananda, when he came to this country, he was in the East Coast for some time, for quite a length of time, and he was in Boston also, and he was around Harvard University. And in Harvard University, there was a philosopher, his name was William James. He is considered to be the father of American psychology. His psychology is considered to be pragmatism, that is the term in which actually his philosophy is termed. So William James became friendly, or they too, that means Swami Vivekananda and William James became friendly, and William James actually addressed Swami Vivekananda as a master, that means guru as it is called nowadays. In that way he used to address him, and he used to learn many things from him in the discussions. And not only that, he has written one book later on,